Hello viewers, tonight I would like to talk about a particular individual who I have followed for a good while now, who was apparently a faith healer, so to speak. He used to do a lot of videos about that. Now he's doing something different, which is quite interesting. I would not say that basically what he was doing was fake, but I have to say that the people, they look for a sign. And forsooth, one would ask the question, how much faith does belief in miracles require? To be honest, there are a lot of people on YouTube who are the same way. Now, the same individual has gotten involved in tarot. Now he is an esoteric seeker and the like. All very interesting. But I have to say, from particular individuals who I know, individuals who I've seen, I have to say I'm not necessarily surprised. And I think that many people like him who are faith healers on YouTube are probably going to go in the same way. I notice a lot of the, how should it be said, a lot of people who do faith healing, they talk about things even in the Kabbalah, like the Shekinah spirit. Frankly, alright, at this point, much of what we see is almost, on par with what magicians would do. Not to say that such a thing is not possible by the power of God. However, some of us understand that, in sooth, if we are to be honest, that staying on this earth is not really the objective of any actual Christian. Now, as far as what a lot of these people do, death is something true Christians are not afraid of. And in a sense, sickness and suffering itself is all test for us. So there were a good deal of people that you can find on YouTube who, let me tell you, they were quite famous, and they did a lot. Not all of it was fake. But at the same time, one must really ask, when does it just become on par with magic and basically something superficial and worldly? When, I suppose, faith, contemplation, and prayer are so underemphasized that people forget mysticism, to be entirely honest. And what I mean by that is people forget the mysteries of God. Prayer itself can be something so mysterious that it can go beyond healing and miracles. And a person who spends a good time in godly contemplation, you can feel such peace that you will feel in your heart you will not even need to seek. So I can see that regardless of all the miracles and all of the different things that we see on the streets now that many Christians are doing. A personal relationship with the Lord on such a personal level that none of us can even explain. That itself is the real foundation of Christian faith. I cannot even blame these people. Because truth be told, a lot of us had our feeling in our minds that a lot of these people who were doing a lot of miracles on the street would sort of flag in their faith. To be honest, a lot of us, we pray for things like this. Miracles, good health. But really, that is sort of the beginning, at least in the Gospels, of faith. Eventually, faith itself, the deepest faith, requires no sign, no miracle, no form. Because the faith and the relationship that you have with God has to go beyond forms and ideas. That has to be an intellectual relationship, one that is more significant than anything in one's own existence. A person who is sort of that passive in prayer, in a sense, is almost as though a passive individual, just simply being relieved and enjoying the goodness of God. And frankly, a good deal of that mysteriousness is not present in the lives of many Christians. And so, some of them are seeking. He is an esoteric seeker now. He wants to find the mystery. He wants to understand some things that apparently he just felt he could not find in just a sort of purely, in a sort of purely Christian way. Now he's relying upon other methods, all of which require forms, all of which require symbols, all of which require different methods, which is very interesting. All right? And this does happen. Some of us used to watch a lot of these faith healers. And truth be told, I think even the effect it has. And I think some of it is godly. Some things that we see may not even be godly, though, but at the same time, whatever spirit is involved, people witness what they consider to be a miracle. And so the question is that, does the faith that a person acquire after witnessing such miracles, is that something which will basically become stronger, or will that faith flag ultimately? So this is just very interesting, to be honest. So I knew this YouTuber for a while. Interesting developments in his life. Very interesting. So I suppose he is now searching for some different things that he cannot find in himself. And in his sort of relationship with the God that apparently he attributed these miracles to. So it is all very interesting. To be honest, I really do not know what to make of it. My range of study has to do with old mystics like Miguel de Molinos, Marguerite Porete, silent prayer, basically. Where our goal, and the goal of Quakers, is to just be completely passive before God in prayer, which, in a sense, we've already found, those of us who have dedicated ourselves to silent prayer, we have already found in our relationship with the Lord on the most personal of levels, what we need to find. I myself, I don't need to seek anymore. What I wanted to find was already in myself. Was Christ, in me, and me in Christ, and Christ in the Father. So frankly, my relationship with the Lord is so very personal, and that frankly, whatever I wanted to find, I have already found. And some people, whatever sort of spirituality or spiritual relationship they had with God, whatever they wanted to find, they just could not find it. Whatever situation they were in, they could not find satisfaction. And so, he is now, this individual, I think his name is this is Colin Bowles or something of that sort. He has decided to basically, resort to images, resort to symbolism, which symbolism does have a purpose. However, our relationship goes beyond imagery. Our relationship goes beyond ideas and concepts. That relationship with the Lord is so very, it goes beyond our sort of capability to really explain. And that is sort of, to be honest, the very significance of our contemplation and prayer. It goes beyond any images that we could create and any symbolism that we could even think of. So, the peacefulness that the Lord gives can only be found sort of within, in that relationship with God who is in us. Some people, when you're going to this, when you're going to images, when you're going to astrology, these are all external things. These are all images outside of you. These are all things outside of yourself. But, this is what apparently he wants to sort of basically do now, which, that's all fine, to be entirely honest. But it is interesting to see how things occur. I've never really thought that much faith was developed through miracles. I always have thought that miracles were the sort of thing that, although a person sort of sees them and witnesses them, they are not really something that build much faith. And I have to say, for those of you who are my fellow Christians, do not put too much faith in miracles. Do not put too much faith in signs or any. I mean, your faith should be so pure that it should not even be tangible. Your relationship should be so uncontrived that it should not even be tangible. It has to be intangible. It has to be entirely personal and intellectual. Now, you can tell a carnal thing because you can see it. You can feel it. You can interact with it in a tangible way. And in a sense, a miracle is tangible. You may not be able to explain how a miracle occurs, but a miracle is tangible. And we have to know that the deepest relationship that we have with the Lord is entirely intangible. Tangible things are not really important. They do not bring, how should it be said, the ultimate peace, the ultimate connection, the ultimate yoking in bonding with God. When you resort to these images, all of these things in a sense have a sort of deception and falsehood within them. All of these things are tangible, things you can interact with, a candle that you can burn, an incense stick that you can burn, a ritual that you can do. All of these things are tangible. So after all this time doing miracles, this is what he has invested himself in. All right, images. But frankly, contemplation is direct experience with God that goes beyond images. Your prayers, which are never supposed to even cease according to our gospel. It is supposed to go beyond the tangible. So this is part of my Christian influencer series. Every now and then I like to check up on how people are doing, what they are doing, what type of life they are living. So apparently this fellow, and his friends and whoever else, they are doing something different now. They seem to be traveling and enjoying themselves, apparently, or at least those pictures show that. And that is all very interesting. As for myself, I'm just witnessing all of this. But I never have really had very much respect, so to speak, for what I see on a lot of Christian YouTube. Because I see a lot of startled people. They see someone healed, they're so startled. But do they really believe in it? In the God who apparently is being preached about or being talked about? They see a miracle, and for them, that is amazing. But before they believe, they have to see a miracle. So, the true relationship with God has to be entirely personal and entirely intellectual. The truest relationship that you have with God has to be entirely intangible and invisible. People like Miguel de Molinos taught that you should be entirely passive before the Lord. Praying without words. Praying in silence. That relationship is beyond any conception, ideas, images, symbols, anything of that sort. A direct experience with the God of heaven. And I have to say that when a person goes to these things, these are all just different methods of external methods, intangible methods, or rather tangible methods. But in prayer and contemplation, what we are doing, we're going beyond any of these tangible things, tarot cards, crystals, all of this. Any of this imagery. We could have it, but it is not needed. And we can understand what the imagery means, but none of the imagery is needed. Alright? None of it is. It may be pretty, but ultimately the relationship that we have is so pure and uncontrived that none of these images, none of these methods and different forms of spiritual practice are of any value. But it is interesting to see what he is doing. Something eludes my mind. I had something in mind. What was I thinking about? I cannot even remember. but it's all very interesting. I'm glad I took a look at this to see what he was doing. But I almost forgot what I wanted to do, to be honest. I really did. Quite honestly. Yes. All right. Yeah, that was just some a video that I like to play every now and then of some Quakers engaging in some silent worship in one of their meeting houses. Anyhow, may you be blessed and farewell.